Even if you try to be perfect while sewing, the seam ripper is a must-have tool for everyone, and you'll probably want 2 or 3 of them because they always go missing. This video will cover how to use a seam ripper and also different ways it's used. A seam ripper is a sewing tool which allows you to precision cut fibers like thread. It's mainly used to remove stitches because either you made a mistake or you want to separate 2 fabric pieces like in doing alterations, but it can come in handy in other situations too. Our ultimate goal when using the seam ripper is to remove stitches with as little damage to the fabric as possible. There's no actual ripping involved. Let's go over the different parts of the seam ripper. You have the handle. This is where you hold the tool when using it. The point, used to carefully pick up a stitch. The ball, which can be used to pick up looser threads and safer to use near your fabric than the point. And lastly, the J-curve. This section is very sharp and used to make the cut. Like scissors, the J-curve can dull over time, so buy a new one if it has trouble cutting. Don't force it or you might slip and damage your fabric. When not in use, please keep the lid on your seam ripper so you don't accidentally hurt yourself. How you use a seam ripper for removing seams really depends on the type of fabric. The more delicate the fabric, the more careful you want to be. Let's go over some techniques. The first one can be used by all fabric types, but definitely better for the delicate ones. On one wrong side of the fabric, use the pointer to unpick or cut the back stitch. Every ½ inch or so, slip the point under the stitch so it slides to the J-curve and cuts it. Repeat this every ½ inch for the whole length of the seam. Flip over, grab the back thread, and gently pull. If it doesn't come apart, you might have to cut more stitches on the other side. Don't force it. After the threads are apart, flip the fabric to the right side. Remove any loose threads and gently massage the fabric at the seam line to get rid of needle punctures. Not all fabrics like leather will be able to get rid of stitch points. Once they're there for good. If you don't have access to the backstitch or you're taking pieces apart in a pre-made garment, you can use this next method. Look at the right side, pull the 2 pieces apart until you can see a stitch in the seam line and carefully slip the point under it to cut it on the J-curve. With the first stitch cut, carefully pull the 2 fabric pieces apart until it no longer gives. Slide the point under the next stitch and cut again. Keep repeating this process, being very careful you're only grabbing stitches and not any fibers from your fabric. You don't want to cause a hole in your material. When finished, pull out the loose threads and rub the fabric to get rid of stitch holes. If you're curious about the ball end, this is to make cutting threads safer for your fabric. If I'm cutting from the right side of the fabric and the threads are loose enough, I can turn my seam ripper so the point part is in the seam allowance and the ball tip goes towards the nice part of the garment. You can still slip it under the thread and cut it. This is so if you do accidentally poke your fabric with the point, it'll happen within the seam allowance area, which remains hidden. You can use this information to cut by sliding, which might be the more risky option in removing stitches. Turn your seam ripper so the point is within the seam allowance and the J-curve is leveled with the stitches. Gently pull the fabric toward the seam ripper and the cutter will cut the stitches. Then clean up your threads. This way is the fastest, but again, it's a little risky if you're not careful and best to use on more stabilized fabrics. Seam rippers are good for removing your basting stitches after you finish a project and if you can see them on the right side. Again, you can just cut every few stitches and then pull the thread out. I also will use a seam ripper instead of scissors if I have a loose thread and I want to cut it close to the fabric. Seam rippers are also great for cutting open buttonholes. Place a straight pin at the end going perpendicular to the buttonhole. This is to stop the seam ripper from going too far and prevent us from accidentally cutting our buttonhole stitches. Using the seam ripper point, place it into the opposite end between the buttonhole stitches, sliding to the J-curve. You'll notice it'll start to cut the fabric. Slide the seam ripper down the center of the buttonhole, stopping when you get to your straight pin on the other side. If you have any other seam ripping tips, leave us a comment below. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified of our new releases. Also check out ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 450 sewing tutorials. If you would like to directly support us, you can join our YouTube membership and earn some exclusive perks. Thanks for watching.